This video is brought to you by Squarespace. How many times they gotta do this to us, man? What's up guys, and welcome to Xbox Ready, my YouTube channel that is all about Xbox. In today's video, we're gonna be talking about the hottest, the latest Xbox news that happened this week. I'm sorry, that sounds very TMZ of me, very like gossip channel, but the point is, I like Xbox, I assume you like Xbox because you clicked on this video, and together we're gonna talk about what Xbox is up to this week. So there's been a lot of chatter about what Microsoft is gonna do with their gaming hardware. Are they gonna leave hardware entirely, ditch consoles and say, you know what, we're gonna be like Sega and just be a third-party publisher? Are they gonna release a digital Series X? Are they releasing a handheld? What's this next-gen Xbox gonna look like that's supposed to be teased at the end of this year? But before all that yapping started, a lot of people looked to Microsoft for a long time, expecting them to somehow make their way into the VR gaming space. At one point, they did seem interested in it, but as the years have gone on, that interest seems to have waned. And eventually, they just came out and were like, we are a hard no on any Xbox VR accessory, headset, whatever. But just because Microsoft isn't giving us a first-party VR accessory option doesn't mean that you won't be able to get an Xbox VR headset soon, if that makes sense. A few days ago, Meta announced that they were going to make the operating system that runs on Quest headsets and have them be available to other hardware manufacturers, companies like Microsoft, Lenovo, and Asus. And in that same announcement, they also said that they were teaming up with Xbox to bring us a limited edition Xbox-themed Quest. And from my understanding, it's also going to be a bundle. It's going to come with a controller and also a subscription to Game Pass Ultimate, so you can stream games through Xbox Cloud Gaming to the little virtual theater room that they have on Quest. Now, if you're out there and you are really wanting Microsoft to give us some sort of VR gaming Xbox experience, this is definitely not what you want. I am semi-tempted to try and buy this because aesthetically it goes really well with my Series X and other Xbox accessories I have, like the wireless headset. But I know in my heart, deep down, that I'm just gonna use it like once or twice and then never touch it again. Because it's like, why would I stream games into a virtual theater room when I can just play it off my console on an actual TV, on a monitor? I have so many other options that make more sense to me. And therein lies the problem with gaming VR, right? It's like, it's hard to justify buying a VR headset for a handful of games. It's a big investment for what is ultimately just an accessory, a supplemental experience. Now, I am personally fine with stuff like this. I don't think Xbox needs to get into VR at all. I think it's time that we all admitted that VR, especially gaming, it hasn't popped off in the way that we thought it would like 10 years ago. I think about the PSVR, the first and the second version, and especially with the PSVR 2, there was a lot of hype surrounding that. And when it finally came out, a lot of reviewers were like, yeah, this is like a top tier VR gaming experience. They had like a decent lineup of VR first party experiences like Gran Turismo. This isn't first party, but the Resident Evil VR was really cool. And also that Horizon Call of the Mountain game. But it's like, even with all of that, excitement for that came and went so quickly. Like, who is talking about the PSVR 2 right now? No one's talking about that over on the PlayStation side. It's all about Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, Rise of the Ronin. Like, they're not talking about VR games. And when it comes to Xbox, if they were to make a VR headset, they would have to divert their studio's attention to make VR games, to make it worth it. And it's like, I don't want y'all to be focusing on VR games. I want you to focus on the games that have been promised to us. Go ahead and put your nose to the grindstone and crank out that Blade game, or the Elder Scrolls 6, or a new Fallout. Give me that Gears 6. I don't want Gears VR. This partnership that Xbox has with Meta makes a lot more sense with what they're doing as a company currently. We know that Microsoft wants to make every screen an Xbox, phones, laptops, tablets, and when Xbox Cloud Gaming became available on MetaQuest headsets a couple of months ago, that also now extends to virtual screens. I am perfectly content with Xbox sitting this one out. A lot of times people are like, oh, PlayStation has a headset, and why doesn't Xbox have a headset? Oh, Xbox has Game Pass, why doesn't PlayStation have something like that? Obviously before PS Plus Extra. But I'm like, nah, they don't need a response to this. I would much rather them come out and say, hey, we got a new accessory, it's an Xbox handheld, than a VR headset. To me, that has way more utility. I see myself using something like that way more than I would a VR headset. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Have you ever woken up one day and been like, dang, I really want to create a website for my business, my brand, just for fun, I don't know, and been like, wait a minute, hold on, I do not know how to make a website at all? Well, today's sponsor, Squarespace, is the all-in-one website building platform that'll give you the tools that you need to build a beautiful, engaging, functional website that you can easily use to connect with your fans, or for any potential customers. If you're like me and you're like, man, I've never done something like this at all, Squarespace makes it really easy by giving you some pre-built templates that you can choose from that you can then put your own personal spin on, inject with your own content, and really make it your own, while at the same time making sure it has that professional, clean look. Whether you choose a template or decide to go with your own kind of custom situation, adding content to the actual display pages is super easy. All you got to do is click add block, and then it's like, what kind of block do you want? Do you want like something that people can fill out if they want to contact you, or do you want a gallery that displays your latest work? What do you want? And that's the thing I appreciated the most about Squarespace. They made it easy for me to build a website that still looked good. So if you want to check out Squarespace for yourself, go on over to their website to start a free trial. And if you're like, man, I really love this, I want to go further, I want to launch my website, go on over to squarespace.com/xboxready for 10% off of your first purchase of either a website or domain name. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Speaking of things that we have to look forward to as Xbox fans, they just announced the date for their ID at Xbox showcase. It's going down April 29th, where they're going to show off new game trailers, gameplay videos, and then they'll dive a little bit deeper into stuff that they've shown off in past showcases. Games like 33 Immortals, Dungeons of Hinterberg, and also Lost Records Bloom and Rage. Now, this is usually a pretty good show. Last year, they showed off Sea of Stars, which I ended up really enjoying, and games like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which ultimately came to Game Pass day one. In terms of the games that we're going to get a further look at, I'm not familiar with Lost Records, Rage, and Bloom, but I did get to play 33 Immortals at last year's Xbox showcase, and I was also part of a press group that got an extended look at Dungeons of Hinterberg. 33 Immortals looks and plays a lot like Hades. It's a 2D co-op roguelite that is loosely based off of Dante's Divine Comedy, where you were rebelling against God's judgment. It's called 33 Immortals because you can play with up to 33 other people. As far as I can remember, there is the melee class, and then a ranged archer class, and then you can team up to do certain moves that do more damage but cost some ability points. While you are making your way through different stages, you're fighting these bad guys, of course, but you're also dealing with environmental events, God literally raining down judgment on you via like beams of light and these explosions and stuff. Very similar again to Hades when you're making your way through and the Olympian gods either decide to help you or get in your way. I thought this was a pretty fun game. I am a little worried when they come out and remind everyone that it is online only. Historically, in the gaming community, that does not go over well. But other than that, I'm really rooting for them because the team behind it is really cool. They were nothing but nice to me. We've seen Dungeons of Hinterberg a couple of times at this point. It is a game where the main character travels to this ski resort tourist spot, and that particular resort attracts a lot of people because dungeons have sprung up all around it. So adventurers and tourists alike converge on that spot in order to check things out. Based in the Austrian Alps, you'll be using your abilities not only to fight enemies, but navigate the different dungeons. There's also a social aspect to it as well. You can go into town and develop relationships with people, and in turn, if you reach a certain level with them, they will give you abilities, items, things to help on your adventure. I don't know if those NPCs are romanceable or not. I wanted to ask when I was in the press showing, but I also didn't. I didn't want to be that guy where like, can you romance the NPCs? I didn't want to be that weirdo. If you want to check it out for yourself, again, it is going down April 29th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. But if you're like, Ray, I don't care about any of that stuff you just said, the showcase, the games, none of it. Well, maybe you are interested in Helldivers 2 potentially coming to Xbox consoles. Helldivers 2, obviously a breakout hit. It's basically Starship Troopers, the game where you go and spread violent democracy to different planets, killing automatons, killing Terminids, these little bug people. But of course, it's only available on PlayStation and Steam. There was a trend recently where people were like, we need Xbox players to come reinforce us, help us out in the fight to spread democracy. And Xbox players seem really interested in playing it on their consoles. So interested, in fact, that they started a petition that got a lot of support. And that's not surprising to me. Xbox guys, we love our shooters. Halo, Gears, Call of Duty, it's in our DNA. Well, there's a rumor going around that Sony is in very, very early talks to make an Xbox version of Helldivers 2. Recently on Xbox Era, Special Nick said that we know that PlayStation has a new CEO at the moment, and I think the new CEO might be more open to certain things. And what I've heard is that there may be some very, very early preliminary discussions about the possibility of Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox. Now, there's a lot of caveats to this. Yes, it is only just a rumor, so do not walk away from this thinking, okay, any day now, Helldivers 2 is going to be on my Xbox. Special Nick here is playing it very cautiously as well. He's saying it's very, very early talks. Very, very early could mean like a year or 5 years out. And also he mentions that they're preliminary discussions, so it's not even like hard line talks, it's preliminary. Now on one end, this does make sense. Helldivers 2, like a lot of online only live service games, absolutely depends on a thriving, big, and engaged community. And what better way to grow your community and make sure that you have a solid player base than to release your game on as many platforms as possible? On the other end, historically, Sony, when it comes to their exclusives and properties that they have the rights over, they are pretty stingy. Especially compared to modern day Xbox, who is like, yeah, go ahead and make a PlayStation version of Sea of Thieves, also Grounded, and a few other games. My gut is telling me don't hold your breath on this, but hey, if there's money to be made, that's ultimately what it's gonna come down to. I see a lot of people online being like, psh, Helldivers 2, no way it's coming to Xbox. It's just poor, pathetic fanboys begging for PlayStation games because they don't have any games. I don't know why it's gotta go there every single time. Like, why do I care? I've been playing Helldivers 2 on PlayStation. Why would I care if it comes on over to Xbox? It makes no sense. People are like, nah, y'all are port begging, but oh, wait a minute. If you look on over at the PlayStation Store, what's this? It's looking that Microsoft has more games selling in the top 25 category than Sony does on the PlayStation Store. And there's a couple of caveats to this. Of course, they just bought Activision Blizzard, so games like Call of Duty and Overwatch 2 that are consistently in the top 10 most engaged bought games, technically that goes to Microsoft. But thanks to the Fallout TV series on Amazon Prime, a bunch of people are buying the PlayStation versions of Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, but again, it doesn't really matter. Microsoft owns Bethesda, and so they are making money off of PlayStation players. But again, especially from a fan's perspective, does any of this matter? If you've been keeping up with me for a while, you know that I am anti-console war. I think it's goofy, personally. It's just not my thing, even when I was growing up, at the height of the console war, quote unquote, or at least the old school version of it. 360 versus PlayStation 3. Like, no one came into your house and saw a 360 or a PlayStation 3 and was like, ugh, you got a PlayStation 3? What the hell is wrong with you? Like, no, people would think that you're a weirdo and you would never be invited back to that house again. The console war, as far as I'm concerned, only exists online. And I know in the past, I've kind of dipped my toe into the console wars. I've said stuff that I don't like about Xbox. I've said stuff that I don't like about PlayStation. But as we go further into this modern era of gaming, it is becoming clear that the majority of people do not really care about exclusives, which seems counterintuitive to all of the experiences I've had as a gamer so far. I've personally bought every console that I've owned in my entire life because of exclusives, whether it's Halo, whether it's certain Nintendo franchises like Fire Emblem. But I feel like people are starting to change their minds. They're starting to wake up and be like, yeah, just release it on all consoles. Why do I care? Release it on all platforms and make it cross-platform so I can play with more people, with more of my friends. Console exclusives, they're like a necessary evil, right? You gotta have some, so people buy the hardware. But in a perfect world, I would be able to play whatever the hell I want on anything that I have. PC, Xbox, PlayStation. Or you know what? If that's the case, why even buy all of those consoles? I would just buy one and play all the games I want on it. I also used to think that console wars were really just the product of like people on Twitter or certain influencers like kind of feeding the flames and trying to drive engagement through like rage bait almost. It's not just influencers or people on social media. It's people like Screen Rant, who in this article are like, Xbox doesn't need to win the console wars. It's already dominating PS5. And it's like headlines like this, I see it not only from Screen Rant, but from other media publications. It's like, wait a minute, the media is in on this too. But enough about conspiracies and, the media is in on it. Microsoft is putting out a special edition Xbox Series X that is inspired by X-Men '97, and it's wrapped in an actual X-Men comic. Simultaneously, release, they're also adding in a bunch of controllers into the design lab that are inspired by different X-Men characters. And while you can buy the controllers from the design lab, once again, you cannot buy the Xbox console. No, it is being given away as part of a sweepstakes that they're doing on Twitter. How many times they gotta do this to us, man? They're like, yo, guys, check this out. We got this badass Series X or Series S. Ooh, but only like 1, maybe 2 people are gonna get it. But after that, you're never gonna see this again. And it's like, I don't understand why, especially with something like this, where the console is less like some crazy design, but it's more of a wrap. They could have easily made something like this, the console wraps that they came out with not too long ago, the camo ones, the Starfield ones. Why not just make like the X-Men thing that is pictured here, but put it on this? The one time they made a special edition console available, it was the SpongeBob one that came out for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, and I was like, that's not nearly as cool, man. I want to buy something like this. If not the Xbox console, a wrap or a skin, something. X-Men 97 is a super popular show right now. They would have made gangbusters on like a limited edition console wrap run. There is a little bit of irony in this because we know that any X-Men game for the next like 10 years or something won't be coming out on Xbox consoles. Sony has like some sort of partnership with them, some sort of right situation going on. But let's stop talking about stuff you probably won't ever have and talk about the stuff that we actually have a good chance of obtaining, experiencing as Xbox fans. Stuff like Jedi Survivor being added to Game Pass Ultimate, and it's going to be added on April 25th, rounding out a pretty decent month for Game Pass overall. Now, when this game came out, the general consensus was that it was dope, but there were a lot of technical performance issues that were really annoying to deal with. It took them a long time to optimize the game, especially over on the PC side. I felt bad because I met Cameron Monaghan 2 Game Awards ago, and I really wanted to support him and play this game, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, I don't want to like buy it right now if it's not finished. So now I'm doing the typical like Xbox thing where it's being added to Game Pass and now I'm gonna play it. And if you're like, man, I already played that game, I don't really care. I don't even have Game Pass. I don't have Ultimate, Core, Regular, none of it. Xbox is running a deal right now where all Xbox owners, doesn't matter if you have Game Pass or any other subscription, you can go ahead and grab 3 months of Apple TV for free. All you gotta do is head on over to the Apple TV app on your Xbox, and they'll give you further instructions there. Now, Apple TV, they got some bangers on there. Severance, Monarch. And again, this is not a Game Pass Ultimate perk. It is available to all Xbox owners. It's free, so why not just go ahead and pick it up and check out some of the shows that I just talked about? And then if you don't like it at the end of the 3 months, you're like, psh, whatever, I'm not gonna renew my subscription. Or more likely, you're gonna forget and it's gonna roll over for another couple of months. But anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready, and we'll see you in the next video.